All right, we are live. Let me press. All right, cool. Welcome everyone to our Monday Q&A session. I just gonna log on to YouTube here so that I can see you guys in the comments. Okay, so we don't have many questions. Well, we don't have any questions at all tonight. So at least not yet. So, what me and Tina are gonna do is just chit chat for a little bit, and go from there. All right, cool. So, Tina, are you ready?
Yeah, so one of the things that we haven't really talked about is what exactly is Airbnb? I know we get a lot of people who come to our channel just because they see us and they see our content pop up on places. And um, there are people who have never even heard of Airbnb or even used Airbnb before, right? We get people who send requests and reservation inquiries who have never used Airbnb before. So I just want to go over, what is Airbnb and break down some myths of what people think it is versus what it actually is.
Yeah. So are
So
you looking for like a formal definition or just like what Airbnb is?
formal, but like a definition, like what is it? And basically like what is it that we do? Um, when it comes to Airbnb, versus, what people think most people are doing on Airbnb.
Yeah. So, I mean, my definition or when someone asks me, what Airbnb is, to keep it very simple, my definition of Airbnb would be, it is one of the many platforms that we use in order to host guests, and to list our properties, so that we can, make profit off of those properties. So that's what Airbnb is, as far as like, a formal definition of it. But there are a lot of myths about Airbnb. I think a majority of the world knows what Airbnb is. So
But
I
I've never used it before, right? Like, so
right.
somebody, if somebody was just to come to you and they, saw a video, they saw your Instagram page and what video you're talking about what you do on Airbnb, you teach people how to use Airbnb.
Yeah.
Like, what is it? Like, how do I do it? You know?
Well, that's a loaded question. That's a hard question.
Oh, as far as like not in a business aspect, but like as a guest, like if I was going somewhere and you the first thing you suggest is Airbnb. What, like, why should I use Airbnb versus like a hotel?
Oh, that's easy. So, I mean, I love to travel myself. I'm a traveler, a lot of the time. So, as a lot of our students know, I just came back from Spain. I was in Spain for 2 weeks, and I was also in Africa. So I was in Morocco for a week, which was didn't have the best time there because I caught a little traveler's issue while I was down there. But why do I use Airbnb versus a hotel? So Airbnbs, to me, I feel as if you get a better value on Airbnb. So in a hotel, you just get a room with a nice bed, some sheets, maybe a desk area, and then a bathroom, and that's all you get. You don't usually have a sink or like a stove or any of those luxury household items when you're in a hotel, unless you get like a grand suite, which is like $500 a night. So when you rent, or when you book an Airbnb, whether it be just a private room or a whole house, you are probably spending less than you would a hotel room. Even sometimes when you rent a whole house, you're spending less on Airbnb and getting more. So you're getting a room, you're getting beds, you're getting a closet, you're getting a dresser. You're also getting access to a full kitchen so that you don't have to spend your money eating out. You can cook if you want to. You have a dining room area so you can hang out with your family, your friends, in that living area, in that dining space. And you just get more access to household things rather than if you were in a hotel room. So that to me is why I personally like Airbnb. It's cost effective, and it's just really convenient. I think, and that's why hotels hate us. Hotels hate Airbnb hosts, because we're the new hotels, right? Nobody really, I mean, not nobody, but the booking rates for hotels has drastically gone down, since the start of Airbnb. I don't know the exact year Airbnb started, but we are giving hotels a run for their money, and they are not happy. And that's why I think a lot of Jim talks a lot about this on his challenges, but that's why we're seeing restrictions being put into place, not necessarily because Airbnbs are causing havoc in neighborhoods, but just because hotels are a big part of the economies of these cities, or at least they thought that they were. So they're the ones that are going to these political leaders and these town halls and these city representatives and these state governments, and they're like, y'all need to do something or we're going to be put out of business. And so that's part of the reason why we're seeing a lot of these short-term rental restrictions, especially in like bigger cities. For instance, Las Vegas, New York City, etc. So in conclusion, that's what Airbnb is, as far as the definition goes, and why I would book an Airbnb versus a hotel.
Yeah.
Are you back?
And I don't think can you hear me?
Yeah, no, I can.
Oh, I don't think too many people really know, because that's really why I wanted to go over that, because I don't think that many people know what an Airbnb really consists of. They've never used it before. Why should I? Why should I start anything?
Yeah, and like that was like what Airbnb is to like a lot of guests. But then when you start to talk about hosting Airbnbs, that's a whole nother thing. And that's where a lot of like the myths come in as far as Airbnb is concerned. Like people are afraid to be hosts on Airbnb for a lot of reasons, but like there are some myths that I would love to discuss because they're super funny. Just like sometimes when some of my friends ask me, hey Rosa, like you're hosting Airbnbs, like what about this? Like what about that? Like does that ever happen to you? And I'm like, no. And they're like, really? So then why does everyone talk about it? So for instance, like when you're becoming an Airbnb host or wanting to become an Airbnb host by hosting your own property, whether it be an extra room in your house or your entire home, one myth in particular, which is I think one of the biggest myths that everybody thinks about Airbnb, is that there are parties. So if you host your whole home or your room in your space, people can throw parties and trash your place and ruin it, or they can squat. People are super, super afraid of squatters and parties. And I think that's because of social media and all the horror stories that have gone on. And don't get me wrong, they have happened. And those aren't fake stories, but they happen because people don't go about Airbnb the right way. They don't, and that's what our academy is really, part of what our academy is about and what we teach people. Like, you don't have to go into this blindly. And if you do go into this blindly, you are at risk to, have a party hosted in your place or have a squatter or, all those horror stories that you hear about Airbnb on those documentaries or on TikTok or whatever. as long as you're asking the proper questions, which in our academy, we give those templates. Our students know we've saved them from a lot of trouble because we've been there, we've done it. Those templates that we give you as far as the correct questions to ask Airbnb guests when they inquire, who to say no to. Yes, you do say no to guests. You don't have to accept everyone. Everyone's money is not good money. So once our students understand that, we have yet to have a party situation at all in any of our Airbnbs, and a squatter situation. So, and if you are following the correct guidelines on who to let in, as far as like the templates we give you, those issues aren't issues at all. If you're going into this blindly and by yourself, you run the risk of, yes, running into those issues, but there are such huge myths, especially with our niche and the people that we aim for, and definitely a myth amongst our academies. We have yet to run into those situations. So
yeah. And to people who may be watching, who are interested in Airbnb, as a guest or as somebody who wants to make money, I'd encourage everybody to do your research. If this is something that you're really interested in, do your research and know kind of what to expect before you get started. As far as what Airbnb is, use it yourself as a guest, use it yourself, as a traveler, and get the experience. Because if you've never used it before, you're kind of like, that's one way of going into it blind. But based on everything that we're saying, also find somebody who through that research you have seen, or you think, because I guess you don't really know until you get into it, is successful, and you've seen them have success. That's the way to get your own success, right? Finding somebody and following what they're doing to be successful. And because if you're just out here doing it yourself, like, yeah, you're gonna figure it out eventually, but not without going through your own mistakes and things that you think are true and are necessary, when in reality they're not. So
yeah,
on that, because like I said, like, we get a lot of people, even in our academy, like a lot of students who come in and they're like, oh, like, like we talked about last week, oh, I was gonna replace all the appliances inside the Airbnb, and a big question that we get is, do women and men, are they okay staying together? Like in the whole house? Like, do I have to separate the men from the women, or do I have to tell the women who are staying there that a man is making a reservation also? And that's a myth, right? But you don't know until you ask the questions, and you follow somebody like us who's doing it the way that we do it. And we do it that way because it's proven to be successful for us. So
there's a lot that comes with, like, the hosting part, and that's like another myth, right? Just in conclusion, the biggest myth of all is that being an Airbnb host is easy. And it isn't, if you don't know what you're doing. And we talk about this on the challenge, and Jim talks about it a lot. Like, anyone can be an Airbnb host, anyone can get an Airbnb, but not everybody can make money off of it. So, we don't, like how you were just saying, Tyna, we don't, we've made all the mistakes so that you guys don't have to, but it can be really overwhelming if you don't know what you're doing when you go into it, because there's a lot that goes into it. As far, because you want to make sure that you're being profitable and you're not, spending an arm and a leg to get your Airbnb up and running and doing all this crazy stuff. And now you're in debt before you even start your own Airbnbs. You want to make sure that you're pricing it correctly, one or two times so that you don't have to keep going in every day and wondering why you're not making money. You want to make sure that you're handling guest situations correctly so that guests aren't walking all over you, right? We give insight and templates to that. We teach you how to run your business and handhold you through that process so that you don't feel like you're learning from scratch and you're having to learn from these mistakes. And I always tell people when they're, wondering about signing up for our academy and getting, in tune, that the money that you're going to lose trying to figure this out on your own is the money you could have just invested to get, whether it's us or someone else, right? Like the money you could have invested to get some type of mentor and some type of guidance so that you're not making these mistakes. So that is the biggest myth. I think people think that it's also simple that you can just put your property on Airbnb and you're going to make money. And that is not like, that's not the case. So,
yeah. Well, I'm not gonna say and or but or anything, like that's it. Like that was good. I think something that is important to also talk about is what are some of the things that like you're grateful for being able to do because of what's coming in from Airbnb, right? We have our own Airbnbs. You have yours, I have mine. We all have Airbnbs together that we manage. What are some things that like you couldn't do before working at a job, being on a schedule that you're able to do now?
I mean, a lot. Everything. I think the one thing specifically for me, I don't have kids yet. I'm not married. I don't really have anybody relying on me as far as responsibilities is concerned, except my dog. So when I reached a point where I was like, graduated from college and then transitioning into the real world, I had to find a job and I had to figure out what I was going to do. And then I started working, with dad in the family business and getting Airbnbs. I realized that I could do what I wanted to do in college, which was travel. I just wanted to travel. I was gonna eventually just like take a year to travel and then come back and then, get into the grind of whatever it was that I was going to do, whether that be law school or coaching or whatever. So with Airbnb, I've been able to travel to 1, 2, 3.
Name them.
So I've been able, since I've graduated college, I've been able to go to Mexico. I've been able to go to Aruba. I've been able to go to Spain. I've been able to go to Africa. I've been able to go, I know that there's something else, one other thing I'm missing. Puerto Rico. I've been able to go to Puerto Rico.
Didn't you go to Greece and you were in Russia for
I was in Russia, but that was during college, so I can't count that after college. But that was like I was blessed enough to take the risk and go to Russia on my spring break in college. And then I also traveled to Spain in college on a whim with one of my college teammates, and that's kind of what like awoke the travel bug in me. So after college, I was able to travel and do those things. Oh, and I went on a cruise. That was fun. Went to the Bahamas, and
Well, on the boat though, how long were you on that cruise?
I was on that cruise for 4 days.
And yeah, and through all those places, all that traveling, we still have students that we're talking to. We still
Yeah,
have guests checking in to our places,
yeah,
um, deposits being made into our account.
yeah.
Um, and
And I think I lost service for
on
2 days.
the cruise, on the
Yeah, I
cruise,
lost. First of all, I didn't know going on to the cruise that I wasn't gonna have any service. I had no clue. So when I couldn't access anything on the cruise, I like I was like, oh shoot, like if I didn't have things and people already in place, like my business, I'd be free. I wouldn't even be able to enjoy this vacation right now because I'd be so worried about what's going on. So when I finally got into service, 24 hours later after, sailing on because there's no Wi-Fi in the ocean, people. So once I finally got to an island, I finally was like, okay, like I can okay, is everything okay? I checked on everybody and everything was running smoothly. So I had check-ins and check-outs happening while I didn't have any service. Had no way to contact anybody. It was crazy. But yeah, that's one of the many things that I'm super grateful for. And ever since then I realized like, oh, I can turn it off for a day, or I can be away from my phone, or maybe I just don't want to talk to anybody and I can just isolate in a corner by myself for 24 hours and everything still runs. So that's, something I discovered.
that's also because again, like, I mean, we've had the um unique ability to have our father be the one that has taught us,
Yeah.
uh, the process of picking Airbnb, start doing Airbnb. And so we've had the luxury of learning from him, and then teaching other people. But that's because we've implemented all the things that we have learned based off of somebody who it's working for, right? Not because we just one day we're like, that sounds like a good idea. Let me go figure that out.
Yeah, definitely not me. I was like, no way. Like coming out of college, I was like, I want to be a lawyer. I don't want to hear anything about this real estate Airbnb stuff. And then once I figured out what it really was about, I was like, teach me, please. Please, 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 please teach me. So definitely.
Yeah. Um, some things that I'm grateful for that have changed for me. When I graduated with my bachelor's in psychology. I graduated not knowing what I was going to do with that.
Yeah.
And and when we started Airbnb, it was right after I graduated, and we had never done it before. It was us really figuring it out, me and my dad, before Rosa graduated. I'm the oldest for everybody who's watching. I'm the oldest of our one other sibling, not including Rosa. And so when we went through it, we were pretty much learning and making those mistakes, so that we wouldn't have to make them later on, and finding those things that were necessary, because the goal is to, not have to be in the center of a business in order for it to, function, for it to work. The goal was to have, financial freedom so that we could go on trips and we could take vacations and go watch Rosa play basketball, at her university, and not have to put in vacation time or anything like that. It was different for me because during college, I did work, at a group home. And if that was something that I continued to do, I would have had to put in, vacation time, or ask for a day off and things like that. But I didn't have to do that because, doing Airbnb, working with my dad, it's not something that you had to be tied down to. That was one thing that was very new when we started doing it. So fast forward, we figured it out. I did go separate ways for a little while. And then I met my husband and we kind of came back around to it. And we started doing it when we began having children and, getting married. One thing that was different for me when I was pregnant with my first child, I was working at the hospital. And I was working up until I was 8 months pregnant during COVID. And before that, and it was interesting. It was an interesting time. So when we started getting back into Airbnb, I left my job, and I never looked back. Didn't go back.
Yeah.
It was eye-opening to see the difference between having to clock in and work during times like COVID, even a month ago, when we had all those advisories about the weather and things like that, like, pregnant people don't go outside if you don't have to, and all these things about the pollution and things like that. Like, we didn't have to go into work. We didn't have to worry about that because we work from home. If we would have done it sooner, with my first child, I wouldn't have had to work until I was, due, until my due date. But I did, and that was something that was a process to kind of get out of, because I had been doing it for so long. But so yeah, after I left, after I had my first son, I didn't want to go back. I was like, scheduled to go back after 3 months, and I was like, how do people do this? Like, how do people leave their kids and go back to work? Like, that's not something that I want to do. It's not something that I'm happy doing. Like, I was miserable. And then I didn't end up having to because of us beginning getting back into Airbnb and those systems being in place and the deposits being made and all these things. I didn't have to clock in. And from there, we've kind of just we've added places to our portfolio and continue to do what's been working. And 3 kids later, I have never clocked into another job again, and we're still making money right from home. As you guys can see, this is our newest addition, Jonah. He is 19 days old, and even while we were in the hospital, we had guests checking in and reservations being made, and money being deposited. And I was in a hospital bed caring for my newborn. So that's something that's been a blessing and is something that is so unique to what most people are doing and what most people think they have to do, as far as, having a job and working 9 to 5 to support your family, to support your kids. I think if I would have had to think about work and how long I was going to be out for and how long I was going to have to work for before I had my baby, things would have been stressful with 2 other kids in the house. And I didn't, and I'm grateful for that. So that's a bit of my story. It's kind of all over the place. There's a lot of moving parts, but yeah, I'm grateful that the things that we're doing allow us to be free financially, free of a schedule, free to do what is important, which is, be with my kids, be the one raising my kids, be the one who's setting the example for my kids, instead of having them have to go to, daycare, or have to think about, babysitters and who's going to watch them while I'm working from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m., So.
Mhm. And that kind of puts a little timeline on how long we've been doing this for. So as you guys I don't know if you guys caught that, but Tina's 3 kids deep, and she started doing this before she had her first kid, and my dad was doing this before that. So we've been doing Airbnb as a Jim's been doing Airbnb for what I would say, Tina, you started it with him way back. So what year? I want to say 2017.
Like the beginning of 2017. Yeah.
So 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, going into, so we've been doing Airbnb 7 years as a unit. I didn't start with Airbnb until after I graduated college. So 4 years after you guys started is when I joined and kind of took over when Taina moved away. But so we've been doing Airbnb for now going on 7 years. So I think that like makes it really like we've been a part of Airbnb like since Airbnb was first beginning. So we've seen Airbnb through a lot of its phases, which I think is pretty rare. And like we're not like these new social media gurus who like have just, been around for a year or two and are trying to, get as many people to join them as possible. We've been around and we've seen Airbnb through its ups and downs. We've seen Airbnb before all of its changes, before it went public. We've seen it through a bunch of stuff, rule changes, a lot of, so we've seen it's like we watched Airbnb grow up, so we know the ins and outs of Airbnbs as a unit together, and it's wild to see like it how it's continuing to change, but like we are so well aware of everything that Airbnb has been through and everything it has to offer. So I think that's what makes us as mentors, and Jim as a mentor so special, because he's seasoned. Like literally he probably knows Airbnb better than Airbnb knows Airbnb. Like seriously, like the people that work for Airbnb now, I think
sometimes even for us, like when we've had a situation, and because we've been doing it for so long, when we speak to somebody on the other line, we're questioning it and kind of making the side eye like, I don't think so. I think you need to go back and check, because I've been doing this for a while and I know what I'm what I'm allowed to do and what's not allowed. So there have been situations like that for I think all of us. And
we know that handbook inside and out, literally. Like, we've had to tell Airbnb representatives like, I don't know if you're too sure about that, because so I think that's like one of the many things that makes like Jim special, just himself, but also us as like a family business and coaching and mentoring. If those of you that don't know, me and Tina also help mentor inside of the academy. That's what we're doing here, in case nobody kind of made that connection. But we host these sessions every Monday, and we handhold our students daily through the academy. And I think that's another thing that's special about us as a unit, us as a team, is that you don't just get Jim when you join our academy. You get me, you get Tina, and you get Chris. Chris is one of the most sought after. He's like a celebrity in our business. Everybody knows him, everybody wants him. So if you guys know Chris, you know him, but if you don't, you will. But you get 4 mentors in one, and you also get a community behind you. It's not just you sign on to our academy and everything is private conversation and you don't ever get to see results of any of our other students. You don't get to interact with any of our students. We open you up to a whole community of over 1,000 of our students, and they're helping you right along with us. So you get 4 mentors, but you also get 1,000 other mentors. Not really, I wouldn't really call them mentors, but you get a community behind you that knows and has gotten results and can answer any questions if you want to connect with people, if you want some extra motivation with someone in your area. 9 times out of 10, we probably have somebody in your area already doing Airbnb and having success from it. So I think that's what makes us, special, just as an academy, as a mentorship, that you kind of get a 4-in-1 deal. And we're pretty popular amongst our students. Just ask about us. People like us more than Jim sometimes. So
yeah, and I think another thing that I know makes us unique from other people in the Airbnb space, or even the real estate coaching space, is we are doing it. We are continuing to do it. We are experiencing all of these things that you guys are experiencing, as you are experiencing them, because we're continuing to work inside of Airbnb. We still have Airbnbs, and we are going to continue to have them. So if there's a situation that it comes up and we get a question about, like, it's a pretty easy resolution, because we've most likely been through it, all 4 of us. So it's not like you talk to one person and you're going to get a different response from if you talk to another person, because the way that we've been taught, we follow all the same steps and processes that have been laid out by Jim, who's the head of all this, who started it all, and we've gone through all the experiences together. Situations may be different and experiences may be different, but our answers are going to be all the same. You, me, Chris, Jim, you're going to get pretty much the same answer, because we've done it all together, throughout this whole process of running the business.
And I think that also, just we won't go on and on about how amazing our academy is, but it really is, and we have the testimonials to prove it. A lot is on our YouTube channel. If you guys are here, you probably have run into our YouTube channel. There's a bunch of testimonials on there, but also, like, there's room for growth, and I think that's unique as well, with our academy and our mentorship versus maybe others. There's room for growth, and we have something for every issue you might have. Like, we have some people who just want to do Airbnb, but they just don't have the time. They don't have the time to manage their stuff. They want to be hands off. They just don't have, or don't want to put as like time as far as answering or guest communications, or maybe maybe they do have the time. They just want somebody else to do it. We have something for that. We have people that have had Airbnbs for a while, but they are maybe not doing the best, and they want more, they have just joined our academy. They want some sort of solution, because maybe their systems aren't working for them. So, like, their cleaners, their managers, how do I automate this business so I don't have to be in the center of it, so I don't have to continuously check behind my people? We have something for that. So there's always there's room for growth. There's always a next level if and when you're ready for it, and if and when you want it. We're not just putting you in one academy and it's like, okay, like, this is all you get, have fun. We're always alongside you, and we're always pushing for growth, and there's always the next level up if and when you want it. So and those are some of the main reasons why I've always thought we were very unique, and those are some of the reasons why. So Tyne, I don't know if you had anything else as far as that is concerned, but
No, I would encourage everybody. I can tell you, like, if there's a place that you are in, like Rosa said, like 9 times out of 10, we probably have a student already that's there. And if that's the case, then there is a YouTube video
Yeah.
of that student talking to Jim for that area. I can tell you we have a lot of students in Houston. We have a lot of students in California. We have a lot of students in
DMV area, Florida, New York.
Florida. But there are some places that aren't, like we talked about last week, places that you may be in that maybe you think aren't, touristy, or places that people would travel to. We probably have students in those places that can prove you wrong and show you why, they can be successful there based on what they've done already with our help. Yeah, check us out. Do a little bit more research on Jim's YouTube channel. Search some of those places up, and listen to the stories, because there are some pretty powerful testimonials and success stories from students who have followed our steps and gone through the process. And okay, buddy.
Mhm.
Done. And allowed us to help them.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I would say.
We have straight facts. Like whenever people ask me about our academy, I'm like, just go to our YouTube page. Like anything you would want to know is here. We have testimonials. We also our Instagram and Facebook. We also have that. We are easy to find. Our reviews are easy to find. So if you guys if anybody is watching this and has, wants more information, leave us a comment, or find us or message us on Facebook or Instagram, join our challenge. We'd love to talk to you and give you some more information. But I think we said a lot and enough in this YouTube session. So I just want to check and see if we had any comments or anybody in our chat box asking us a question. I don't see any.
More than we should be on the live. We give away a lot.
I know.
Yeah. Next week, we'll be here also giving away things we probably shouldn't.
Yes, we're always here. Today was a little weird. We usually have at least 1 or 2 questions. But that whenever we don't have questions, we always say that's a good thing, because that means our students are thriving and striving. So that's okay if we don't have any questions. We like when we don't have questions, because that means everybody is doing we assume that everybody's doing fantastic, but sometimes people are just afraid to ask questions. So if you have a question, if you are a student, if you're watching, make sure you are asking your questions on the platform so that we can ask it, or so that we can answer it live. No question is a silly question. We want to make sure that everyone gets all of the information that they need in order to be successful. So make sure that you're asking a question. And then even if you're not a student, Jim has given us the okay to pick and answer 1 or 2 questions maybe a night for anybody who has a question that's not a student that may be tuning in. So if you're watching this and you're not a student and maybe have a question or 2, type it in the comments, and we'll answer it next time, or maybe next time joining us at the same time, 5:45 on Mondays, and we will see if we can get to your question. So definitely interact with us. We want to interact with you guys. We want to get you guys some information that we probably shouldn't. No, it's okay. Jim doesn't mind, but we want to give you guys some more information, and we want to interact with you guys. So I think that's all we had for tonight. I don't see any other questions. Tina, did you have anything you wanted to close out with? Did you say no? I'm sorry. Okay. All right. You're on mute. So Tina's got a little baby to feed. So we are going to end this session so she can get her little baby some food. And again, if you guys would like some more information, there's gonna be a link to our next challenge in the comments. Our next challenge is, let me just double check and confirm that date so that I give you guys the correct information. Our next challenge is going to be November 7th. It starts at 5:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So our next challenge is November 7th. Spots are limited, so make sure that you are joining our challenge, buying a ticket, reserving your seat. Because our challenges are packed full of information. So if you'd like more information on our challenge, there's going to be a link in our comments, or you can find our challenge link on our Instagram or Facebook as well. And that's all I have for you guys tonight. And we hope to see you again next Monday.
Yes, stay tuned. We will be on next week, dropping some more stuff that we probably should. So
yes. All right, guys. Well, we'll see you next week, and you guys have a good night.
God bless you. Good night.
Taina, I think you have to end this.